Hello and welcome back to IT Camps. I'm John Weston with Microsoft. In this series of IT Camp sessions, we're going to talk about Windows Server 2012. In this session, we're going to cover NIC teaming, or network teaming with your network cards, and load balancing. Our agenda for this session is to define what is NIC teaming, why should you care about NIC teaming, and how you can deploy it in your environment. And then we'll take a look at a technology and understand exactly how NIC teaming is going to work. So what is NIC teaming and load balancing, and this new feature in Windows Server 2012? NIC teaming is a feature that's built into Windows Server 2012. It's also known as the Load Balancing Failover Service, or the LBFO service. This allows us to have multiple network cards to be placed into a team for the purposes of balancing the bandwidth aggregation and/or traffic failover to prevent the server going offline if we lose one network interface. Now, there have been third-party solutions that have done this in the past, but now it's built into the operating system. A lot of the third-party solutions were very specific to a brand of network cards or only worked with certain types of network cards. This works with any network card that you might want to put in a Windows Server 2012. This will be available in all the SKUs. It's available in Server Core. It's available in the full install of Windows Server 2012. This is not a feature of Windows 8. I want to be real clear about this. This is a function of Windows Server 2012. Now, however, the remote server administration tools can be installed on Windows 8, so you can actually manage this network teaming from your Windows 8 client, but the actual service of Windows 8 is only going to be configured on Windows Server 2012. So why should you care about NIC teaming and load balancing? In the past, there have been challenges to try to do this capabilities of bundling together and creating fault tolerance with multiple network cards that are more common today in lots of our servers. There's different configuration interfaces by different manufacturers, so there's a lot of third-party tools out there, but they didn't work with all the different network cards that were available. Keeping drivers updated, extra-level configuration management as a patch came out or a new updated network driver came out, you had to go through the issues with the third-party interaction. And quite frankly, our older versions of our server product didn't support this natively, so now it does. So its native support built into the operating system is free. There's no additional charge for this, including all the operational and configuration tools that you need to manage this. Updates are obtained directly from Microsoft, and it's a unified interface. Regardless of the network card you're doing, the configuration of network teaming is exactly the same. Doesn't matter what brand or configuration of network card that you're using on your server. So next, let's take a look at the technical overview. Exactly how does NIC teaming work and work with our load balancing? From an architectural perspective, there's two basic algorithms for NIC teaming. First is switch-dependent modes. This requires a switch to participate in the teaming. So we have to have a network switch that our network cards are plugged into. There's either a generic or a static type teaming or the dynamic learning type of switches that we might have out there. The other is switch independent modes. This is one that doesn't know or care that we have a switch out there. This does not require the switch to be participating in the teaming. Now, the traffic can be distributed a couple of different ways. One through a Hyper-V virtual switch or through what's called address hashing, otherwise known as transport ports. Now, the requirements to do this is you got to have at least one network card, at least two network cards to provide fault tolerance and failover capabilities. You can have up to 32 network cards in a single team. So we also support NIC teaming in our virtualized environment. So not just for the host operating system, but we expose these virtual networks to the virtual machines that are running as guest operating systems in Windows Server 2012. So here, notice this includes the PowerShell command here to set VM network adapter, where we can use the -allow teaming switch, which allows that virtual machine to be able to have access to the teams of network cards that we have available from our host network. Only teams where each team member is connected to different virtual machines are supported. Each Hyper-V switch port that's associated with the virtual machines, that then teaming must be set to allow the MAC spoofing. Right? Because you got to think about how you have multiple guest operating systems using the same network card, and what are you going to do for your different IP addresses? This allows us in a distributed mode to either set a switch independent or a switch dependent, that meaning be a static or an LACP type of environment, to be able to deal with our different types of traffic. In our all address hash modes, the outbound traffic is going to be separated across all active members. Whereas we use the switch dependent mode, all outbound traffic is separated across all active members. Here's some of our sample recommended configurations for Hyper-V. If you want to team but be connected to different switches, the teaming mode must be switched to switch independent. In this case, the administrator will then take a look at all inbound traffic and spread it across the team members. So we create a grouping or a pool of network cards. Here we want to use Hyper-V port load balancing to do that. If the administrator accepts all inbound traffic arriving at one team member and wants outbound traffic to be shared across all the virtual machines but be limited to the bandwidth of the team, in this case you would want to use the address hashing. But what about if the administrator wants all team members to be connected to the same switch and is willing to administer the switch, select either static or LACP configuration. So there's lots of different choices we've got here, but you need to think about this ahead of time before you set up NIC teaming. Now we do realize there are good third-party solutions out there, and that's fine if you want to continue to use those. But we have one word of caution for you here, as this slide talks about. If you're going to use one of these third-party NIC teaming solutions, please don't use that also in conjunction with the NIC teaming feature of Windows Server 2012. There's a high likelihood that these two different solutions could conflict with one another. So don't use multiple teaming solutions. Pick one. Either use that third party, and that's fine, or pick the one that's now built into Windows Server. So here's a few screenshots of the ways that you can deploy NIC teaming. There's actually 3 different methods. Notice on the left-hand side here, I can go to Server Manager, Local Server, and pick on the local network adapter settings and turn on or off the network adapter teaming capabilities. If I want to set it in an Active Directory type of mode to all of my servers that fall under my management, notice here I can now go to Server Manager, All Servers instead of the local server, and turn on NIC teaming for all the servers in my environment. And finally, there's a third choice. As you see in the bottom of the screen here, we can always enable this with PowerShell. Once we get inside of the UI, here's the graphical interface. So I go out there and create a new team. It allows me to go in and control the speed of the network cards and how the different features of those network cards are going to work. A nice standard user interface across all network cards. Then to create that new team, we right mouse click on the server, click on New Team, and create a new team and identify what network adapters that are in that server that we want to group together into this team. Of course, we can all do all this with PowerShell as well. We have the get help net LBFO, because remember when I introduced this, the load balancing is referred to as the short acronym LBFO. So get help net LBFO, and there's also a net LBFO team command that are our PowerShell commands that can show us what we currently have configured and how we might want to make changes to our network load balancing. Now we'll show a demonstration of how to set this up, but before we do that, let's talk about some of the resources you have available today. You can go download a free 180-day trial of Windows Server 2012 by going to aka.ms/HWWS2012. We also have a lot of great free training out there. Go to Microsoft Virtual Academy. Yes, this training is free on how to set these type of things up, as well as how to configure your own private cloud. This is all online. It's available in lots of different languages out at aka.ms/Virtual Academy. So go out there and try some of this free training. So next, let's take a look at a video of how you would set up NIC teaming.